Hello guys, it is Gate of Theories here, and today we are back doing another versus video, and today we're going to be looking at one of our childhood's most loved TV shows. Everyone loved this TV show. I couldn't see a person on the streets who just didn't love this, and we are going to be talking about the original Beyblade series. So I'm on about season 1, 2, and 3, the original V-Force and G-Revolution, with the original characters, with the Blade Breakers and Tyson and Kenny, all that sort of stuff. So we're not including Metal Fusion in this video, or Burst, because those are in sort of a different universe. If you want us to do a video on that, make sure you let us know in the comments down below. And also, we are not going to be including the one-off movie that they did because it doesn't really fit with the actual story. So today, we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane and looking back at this brilliant TV show, because this TV show did a lot. And today we are going to be versing and ranking the 3 seasons it had. The original, the second season V-Force, and the third season G-Revolution, to see ultimately which one was the best. So let's get on with it, but before we go any further, please make sure that you click that red subscribe button down below and have your notifications turned on so that you get notified whenever we make a brand new video. So, how this video is going to work, we are going to split it up into different categories, and each season will take on this certain category, and we will give them a point system, with the best season during this category getting 3 points, then 2 points, and then the worst season only getting 1 point. And then we will see overall, really, by adding up the points, which season of this original series that we all loved was the best. So the first category is the main characters. Now, the original season, the first season, brought the main characters together: Tyson, Kenny, Kai, Max, and Ray. We all loved them. They're amateurs at the beginning, and the whole point of their journey throughout the first season is them teaming up together and becoming pros. And we can see that these main characters go from not really knowing each other to a bit of tension to them becoming really great friends, and we really begin to connect with these main characters. V-Force introduces a new main character, Hillary, and we get to see what life is like for them without them being in a tournament. So we get to see more personal aspects of their life. And in G-Revolution, it introduces Daichi, who is just amazing and awesome, and I don't think there's any better character than him. And there's a lot more tension, which makes the scenes, in my opinion, a lot more better between the main characters, because of course they're all in different teams and they're not on the same team anymore. And you begin to see just how close these friends are, but the lengths they'll go to, such as sacrificing their friendship for the sport, is just incredible. And we get to see just how much Beyblading actually means to all of them personally. And we of course get to see them face each other professionally, and how they cope with other people on their teams who aren't other main characters. To be honest, I think G-Revolution just ultimately wins this one, because it shows us what the main characters are like without each other. We see what they're like individually. And in second place, I'm going to give this one to the original series, because it introduced us to them and brought together the team. And V-Force will become last in this one, because didn't really do much with the main characters. They just introduced a brand new one. Plus, G-Revolution has Daichi, and again, you can't beat him. The second category that we're going to have a look at is the supporting characters. The characters who are there to support the main characters and usually give us some great scenes as well. Now, the original series introduced the main side characters, such as the classics, such as Grandpa and Mr. Dickinson, but also showed us the main teams they face, including some very well developed side characters. And the reason why I love this show so much is that every single side character always had such a developed character. They weren't just like some plain old rubbish character. They actually had proper tension and proper character development. And we can see this when, in the original series, when the White Tigers first come on, and they're the first ever proper side characters we get. And there's that tension with Ray, and then Max has his rival with his mum. And these characters all add something to the other main characters. And then, of course, we get the whole thing with Kai's grandfather and Boris as a side character. Is just amazing in the original series. V-Force introduced completely new side characters, with barely any of the original ones actually making it in. However, these new side characters were mainly always a threat or a friend turned into a threat. You had the likes of Kane, the Saint Shields, Zio. I mean, they were good, however, you never really connected to them as much as they didn't really have so much of a personal connection to the main characters like the ones in the original series did. As for G-Rev, the supporting characters from Series 1 return, and you see them having to work with the main characters, with a few added ones like F Dynasty and the Barthos Battalions and Hero, and this is why you can see the supporting characters were so important. All of them had a huge role in G-Revolution. They weren't just there for the sake of it or there to be an antagonist. They were there to add something important to the series, which is what I love. All of them had a role in G-Revolution and were fully characterized and were made important to the story. And this all ended up helping the team to defeat Vega in the end. So again, for this one, I'm going to give the exact same scores as last time. G-Revolution, you saw all the side characters properly come together and you really connected with them, especially the ones from other teams. So G-Rev gets 3 points, the original series gets 2 points, and V-Force, since no one really connected with those side characters, it's only going to get 1 point for this. The next category we're going to look at is the villains, because as we know, villains were quite a serious topic throughout G-Revolution. I mean, V-Force basically spent all of its time looking at villains. Looking at the original series first, the opposite teams, such as the All-Stars and the White Tigers, were basically seen as minor villains at first, but then became quite close to the Blade Breakers. But of course, we all know that the main villain in the original series was, of course, Boris and Kai's grandfather, which were the true villains, with Kai's grandfather being teased about right from the beginning of the season, which gave it a really nice story arc and gave us some mystery behind this character of Kai. And the plots were filled with high tension. Moving on to V-Force, all of the villains were focused on getting the Blade Breakers Bid Beasts, the 4 main Bid Beasts, and the team are basically hit with villains right from the beginning of the season, left, right and centre, and all the way right to the end. But it doesn't mean that these villains were necessarily the best. You had the villains who created the cyber versions of the team, basically copies. You had Azuma and the Saint Shields as villains first, then you had Dr. Zygarde. So there was absolutely loads, but were they really like as high as some of the other villains we had? And moving on to G-Revolution finally, it mainly focused on the tournament, so didn't have much of a villain to start with, but the return of Boris and the new Vega headquarters was amazing, and they basically took over everything. So really, these villains won in G-Revolution for a little bit. However, villains weren't really the main focus on the season, and Boris was still as evil in the original season. So I'm going to have to give this to the original season because it had Boris and it had Kai's grandfather, and it was just a huge ending with lots of high tension, and I think the villains were really good. Then, second place, we're going to have V-Force for this one because it had lots and lots of villains left, right and centre who were actually pretty good, not going to lie. And then G-Revolution is coming last in this category because it didn't really focus much on villains. I know Boris did return, but he was basically the same guy as the one in the original season. Next, we have the best Beyblade battle. Man, there is so much to choose. Honestly, it took me forever to try and even think of the best Beyblade battle because this show throughout all 3 seasons is just so amazing. It is incredible. I absolutely love it, and all of the Beyblade battles are just amazing. You can think in the original season, all of the Beyblade battles between the finales of each tournament, so Ray versus Lee, Max versus Michael, and of course Tyson versus Tala. It was amazing, and just any battles in between. This show is just full of amazing stuff. In V-Force, there was huge tensions between the Saint Shields and the Blade Breakers. Battles literally lasted for episodes after episodes after episodes. They went on forever because they were that awesome. And there was, of course, the really cool battles between the cyber versions of the Bid Beasts and then normal Bid Beasts, especially when Tyson and Dragoon versus Kane and Cyber Dragoon. That is one of the best battles I have ever seen in Beyblade. And moving on to G-Revolution, there was so many great ones, of course, in the tournament between the tag team battles and just the single team battles. And of course, you had the finale with Kai versus Brooklyn near the end. That was amazing. But overall, I really couldn't choose. It was so high. But personally, I think the best ever Beyblade battle has got to be Tyson versus Kane, because it was basically Dragoon versus Cyber Dragoon from V-Force, and it was amazing. And it lasted for ages, and it was just the tensions were high. If Tyson lost this, they were going to lose their Bid Beast, and we couldn't do that. So, for that reason, I'm going to give this one to V-Force, which is going to get 3 points, then G-Revolution, because that had all the tag team battles with 2 points, and then finally the original season, because, well, it was the original. They were pretty much amateurs, most of the people who were fighting, so that only gets 1 point for this one. The next category is animation, and this is basically self-explanatory. It just got better as it went along. In the original season, when they were animating the Beyblades, it was literally just like one little blob with a tiny other little blob inside. That was about it. It was okay. By V-Force, they'd really experimented with it, and it looked amazing, the Beyblades. You could actually see some of the details on it. By G-Revolution, how they animated that, bearing in mind of the time, created in 2004, it was incredible. It was mind-blowing how they animated it. So for this, very easy. Beyblade, the original series, gets 1 point, V-Force gets 2 points, and G-Revolution gets 3 points. So the next category is the biggest twist, because there was lots of plot twists throughout all of these seasons, and every episode usually ended on some sort of like slight twist or cliffhanger. The original season was full of loads of plot twists from all of the main characters. When they were fighting in the China tournament, you had Ray's past and whether he was going to move to the White Tigers or not. You had Max's mum changing and literally tricking all of the Blade Breakers and her own son to try and defeat them. And especially the plot twist of Kai's past. Then the biggest twist of all, Kai literally leaving the Blade Breakers to take on Black Dronza. And there were some amazing moments from this. You had the team facing Kai on the ice, and you had Black Dronza stealing everyone's Bid Beast. It was just incredible. And the reveal of Boris and Kai's grandfather, incredible twist. And even just the small plot twists in the season, like it revealing that it was Mr. Dickinson who sent the kids lost all around Europe. This season was just full of big twists. V-Force, there were twists, but you're not as connected to the characters as much, like I said before. There was the twist of Zio being a robot and Dr. Zygarde being a bad guy, but there wasn't really that many twists, apart from the major one at the end, so not really much to go off. G-Revolution, right from the beginning, the main team splitting up was a complete huge plot twist. Who would have thought that these Blade Breakers would have just completely went against each other? There was Boris returning, there was Hero joining Vega. There's a moment where Kai even joins Vega. So this series was also full of major twists as well. But overall, I'm going to have to give this one to the original series to give it 3 points because it just had so many twists from left, right and centre and it was amazing. Then I'm going to give the second place to G-Revolution because it had the twists of Boris returning. And then finally, V-Force with only 1 point because it didn't really have that many twists throughout it. The next category, we have connections to Bid Beasts. Because it might be hard to remember, but Bid Beasts are very, very, very important to the characters. From Dragoon first being introduced in the very first episode, they're the soul of the Beyblade and the blader who holds it, and shows the blader has to work and connect with the Bid Beast to truly win. It's all about trust. They need their own complete section and their own category in this list, else what are we doing? So, the original season, all of the main Bid Beasts are introduced. Dragoon, Drigger, Drasil, Dronza, and Dizzy, if we're counting Kenny's, and shows how powerful some of these Bid Beasts can be. For example, whenever they come to a new tournament, they always meet a brand new Bid Beast from one of the opposition teams who is just mind-blowing, and they're wondering how on earth can we beat them. And you can also see in this season just how precious the Bid Beasts are to their own person. For example, when Ray loses Drigger at the beginning, or Black Dronza stealing all of the Bid Beasts from other people, it just shows how important these Bid Beasts are to the Bladers. V-Force, the whole season mainly focuses on the Bid Beasts and their power and their history. Every villain, whether it's the Saint Shield stealing the 4 main Bid Beasts for their beliefs, Dr. B creating the Cyber Bid Beast to be the ultimate Bid Beast and defeat and capture the 4 main ones, and Dr. Zygarde trying to capture the Bid Beast to give Zio true life and purpose. This season was just full of Bid Beasts left, right and centre, mainly focusing on the 4 main ones. Plus we lost Dizzy, which was kind of upsetting, and it just, every scene was always about Bid Beasts in some way. Finally, G-Revolution, the Bid Beasts aren't seen as that important, but only really used for attacks now. It doesn't delve much into the connections between the Blader and the Bid Beast because they've had 2 seasons of doing that before. it's a shame, but unfortunately, G-Revolution definitely comes last in this one with only 1 point. I'd say V-Force is definitely going to win this one because the entire season was basically just focused on the Bid Beasts, and then the original gets 2 points because they introduced the Bid Beasts and they were quite important. So, we are about to enter our final category, and the scores are 14 for the original series, 13 for V-Force, and 15 for G-Revolution. That is so close. On this next category, whoever wins is going to win overall, because any team could win right now. So, let's see who it is. And the final category is, of course, the story. The main storyline throughout each season, and it has to be brilliant to win this category. In the original season, we had the team turning from an amateur blader to fully becoming world champions and dealing with all the best bladers from around the world to compete with, such as the White Tigers, the All-Stars, and eventually the Demolition Boys. And of course, they faced stuff like the Majestics and the Dark Bladers, and it was all basically a really nice round story of them becoming professional bladers to eventually world champions. It had a really nice story arc running through it. V-Force, the team dealing with the struggles of being world champions and holding the 4 sacred Bid Beasts and having to deal with basically everyone trying to take these Bid Beasts away from them. It was a nice story, got really complicated in certain areas, but it was basically the same story throughout. Basically, every episode someone was after the main 4 Bid Beasts and they had to survive with themselves being world champions. And G-Revolution, each character was wanting to compete to win the World Championships. The Blade Breakers completely split up, to eventually them all coming back together, forming the G-Revolution team to take down their biggest enemy and save the world of Beyblading. And of course, I think it's very obvious who's going to win this one. G-Revolution, of course, wins this one by getting 3 points because it is just an incredible story. We get to see all the tensions between the character. We get to see a tag team world championships. Loads and loads of really cool side characters. It's the return of Boris. And we, of course, get to see G-Revolution and some of the best Beyblade battles ever. It is amazing when G-Revolution versus against Beyblade. So for that reason, G-Revolution definitely wins this one. Next, we've got the original season winning 2 points for this one. Because it was a really nice story arc. You had them going from being no one to becoming everyone who everyone was talking about, and I thought it was a really nice story. And last place, unfortunately, is V-Force. Probably guessed this one because it didn't really focus that much on blading. It had like a tiny little championships at the very end, but mainly just focused on all the mystery. If that's what you like, then maybe that's it, but I came to watch Beyblading to see all of the huge battles in the tournaments, so unfortunately V-Force for the story only gets 1 point. So, overall, that means the total scores are, for the original series, 16 points, coming in second place. For V-Force, only 14 points, coming in last place. And, of course, the best season, the third and final season, according to these lists, are G-Revolution with a total of 18 points. I mean, these points are very close to one another, so you can tell just how amazing the show is and how similar it is throughout all of its 3 seasons. But anyway, guys, that's the end of the video. Hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, make sure that you smash that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell us down in the comment section down below what you used to think of Beyblades. Did you used to watch it all the time? If you still watch it, because it is just awesome. And let me know what your favourite season is from the original season. And as always, we've been here on Gate of Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.